This is the story of how one decision stopped a couple from moving forward in life. What happened that day changed everything, and after that, they never saw the outside world again. Today is Ben and Laura's wedding anniversary. To celebrate, they set out on a short trip, beginning their journey from the ocean. The plan is to spend some peaceful time together and then continue toward their next destination. But along the way, Laura notices a beautiful island in the distance. Captivated, she insists they should go there. Ben is hesitant, but giving in to his wife's wish, he says, "Today is our special day, so let's explore something new." What they don't know is that this decision will change their lives forever. They lower their small rubber boat into the ocean and row toward the island. But as soon as they step onto its land, they realize the truth. Things that look beautiful from far away don't always remain the same up close. The island is barren and silent, nothing but desolation all around. Still, Laura insists, since we've come this far, we should explore it properly. Otherwise, coming here would be useless. The couple begins walking through the lonely place. Soon, they come across rusty old machines. From the looks of it, they guess that years ago, traders might have worked here with large ships, or perhaps some kind of scientific experiments were conducted, leaving only debris behind. Climbing to the highest point on the island, they take a few pictures and enjoy some quiet moments. But then Ben notices the sky growing darker. Could this be a sign of a storm? Concerned, he decides it's time to leave, because staying any longer could be dangerous. They put their small boat back into the water and row away, but before they can get far, the storm unleashes its fury. Strong winds and waves toss the boat, and they realize if they remain on the water, they might get swept away. They immediately turn back toward the island. It's the only safe option now. That night, they build a small shelter and light a weak fire, spending the night in fear and exhaustion. The next morning brings even greater trouble. When they look out toward the sea, their boat is gone. Laura suspects that in the hurry, Ben may have forgotten to set the anchor. But Ben insists he had secured it. Most likely, the boat was carried away in the violent storm. Hoping to find it, they search the shoreline, but no matter how far they go, there's no trace of it. Slowly, Ben realizes that Laura might be right. The boat is truly gone, and they are stranded. To make things worse, the diesel for their small engine is almost finished. He immediately stops using it and begins rowing with paddles instead. He knows it's better to return to the island and wait for help than risk being lost forever at sea. Now hunger and thirst begin to set in. Their greatest challenge becomes survival itself. They climb to the highest mountain on the island, hoping to spot some sign of life nearby, but all they see is emptiness. Then, at last, they find a small stream of fresh water trickling from a rock. They drink eagerly, quenching 2 days of thirst. Around the same spot, they discover edible leaves, enough to regain a little strength. Ben realizes that if they truly want to be rescued, they must try to send a signal. Without a phone or radio, the only hope is to create an SOS sign. He quickly gathers wood and arranges it in large letters on the ground. Still, he knows this might mean waiting a month, a year, or even a lifetime. But giving up would mean certain death, so they must keep trying. From the remains of the abandoned machines, Ben finds some cans and uses them to store water. One day, while exploring, he stumbles upon 3 graves marked on a hill, proof that people had once lived and died here. Maybe like them, others had been trapped. Time passes slowly. Days turn into nights, nights into afternoons, yet nothing changes. With little food, their bodies weaken. Ben tries to keep Laura's spirits high. He encourages her. "We must fight. We must have courage, because better days are ahead." But Laura feels no strength inside her. Exhausted, she collapses. Ben rushes to carry her back to their hut. After spending the night in worry, he makes a decision. He can't sit idle any longer. For survival, he must take action. He sharpens a weapon, preparing to hunt. The next morning, as Laura regains some strength, Ben takes her to the other side of the island. Ben went to a place where there was a crowd of penguins. Now, you must have guessed what he was planning to do. Survival often feels like a battle, and when hope begins to fade, even a single moment feels heavy. Laura wasn't ready for this. She didn't want him to kill an innocent creature just to fill their stomachs. But Ben knew that if he didn't act, they wouldn't survive much longer. So, with a heavy heart, he killed a penguin. After many days, they finally had some real food, and life seemed to return to his body. For a while, their lives started improving. They now had both food and water. But this happiness didn't last long, because when you are waiting for rescue every single day, time itself feels like a needle piercing your skin, even if you have everything else. Every day they looked toward the horizon, hoping for help. But no one ever came. Eventually, they returned to the same place as before. Only this time, something was different. The penguins had disappeared. This shattered Laura completely. For her, it felt like they had returned to the same hopeless point from where they began. Overcome with fear, she told Ben they should return to the sea. Perhaps a passing ship might see them and rescue them. But Ben refused. Out at sea, there would be no food, no direction, and far too many dangers. At least on the island, they were safe. But Laura couldn't shake the fear that kept echoing in her mind. What if something happens to us? What if I die of hunger right here? Suddenly, they spotted the light of a ship in the distance. Excited, they ran to the shore, shouting at the top of their lungs. But from such a distance, it was like people on the moon calling out to those on Earth. No one could hear them. Laura quickly tried to light a fire, hoping the smoke would be seen. But in the meantime, Ben launched their small boat into the sea, determined to reach the ship. Laura cried out, begging him to come back, warning him of the danger. But he wouldn't listen. This was their only chance, and he couldn't let it slip away. He paddled furiously, but soon, what they both feared happened. His boat ran out of fuel. Despite going far, he still couldn't reach the ship. Their one hope of survival vanished before their eyes. Laura stood helplessly on the shore, waiting for her husband. But he never returned. Broken and devastated, she walked back alone to the hut. The next morning, someone knocked on the door. To her shock, it was Ben, injured, exhausted, but alive. She rushed him inside. He explained that on his way back, the boat had capsized against a rock. His leg was badly injured, but he fought the waves and somehow made it back. Laura tended to him. She heated a knife to seal his wound, and though the pain was unbearable, making him faint, she refused to give up. She realized that everything was now in her hands: food, water, and survival. As days passed, Ben slowly recovered. He admitted he hadn't wanted to risk Laura's life by taking rash decisions, but she encouraged him. Together, they had to stay strong. Weeks turned into more than a month. They had survived this long with nothing but each other in this desolate place. But then, winter started creeping in. From a distance, the mountains were beginning to freeze. Danger was drawing closer. Laura told Ben they needed to leave before it was too late. But he refused, saying he wasn't fit to travel. Outwardly, she agreed. But deep down, she knew they would die if they didn't act. So one night, while Ben was asleep, she quietly gathered supplies and set out alone. Her resolve was clear. She had to find help no matter what. The freezing winds cut through her skin, and snow stretched endlessly in every direction. Still, she walked on. It was a do-or-die mission. Days passed. At times, she felt her strength give up, but she pushed herself forward, rubbing cold ice on her face to stay awake. After 3 grueling days, she finally spotted a red building in the distance. It was a research station. She ran inside, but it was empty. Still, it had food, warm clothes, and even a snowboat. Revived with new hope, she quickly ate, packed supplies, and set off to return to Ben. By the time she reached the hut, night had fallen. But what she saw shattered her. A storm had destroyed everything, and Ben was buried under the collapsed shelter, his body frozen stiff. Terrified, she dragged him into the snow boat and rushed him back to the research station. There, she covered him with warm clothes and tended to him until his body slowly regained warmth. Ben was alive. At last, after weeks of despair, they finally had a safe place to live. Food, warmth, and shelter were theirs again. They even danced one night, celebrating their survival. And then, after 42 long days, the moment they had prayed for arrived. A team of scientists reached the station. At last, help had come. Overwhelmed with joy, Laura hugged Ben tightly. Their nightmare had finally ended. And with that, this story comes to a close. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.